Now, no more DACA deal.
They had a great chance. The Democrats blew it, but we'll have to take a look. But Mexico has got to help us at the border.
There is footage and a caravan that includes about 1,000 people that are making their way our direction and possibly to overwhelm the border guards.
Attorney General Jeff Sessions appointing a federal prosecutor to investigate alleged FISA abuse. Is it enough?
The Attorney General did exactly what people should want him to do. If he had appointed a special counsel, there would have been a considerable delay. Ogunbowale for the win.
March Madness spilling over into April. The Notre Dame women claiming their second national championship in dramatic fashion, of course.
Abby Huntsman, if you're looking for her, she's not off today. She's at the White House waiting for the Easter egg roll to start.
It's a beautiful day.
Yeah, well, what's not to be happy about across America?
Well, it's snowing here. You know, it's going to dry up a little later on, according to Adam Klotz, but nonetheless, it is Easter Monday, and it's a tradition here on Fox and Friends. We always are live at the White House Easter egg roll, and Abby Huntsman is there right now.
Abby, despite the snow outside here in New York, we can wear white. Remember our grandmother's rule? You can wear white after Easter?
True. That's true, and Ainsley, yours is sort of a creamy white, so it's perfect, and
yes.
you know, it's like a warm white. So the sun is coming out here. It's warming up a little bit, but as you said, it's the 140th year of the Easter egg roll. You can see just how close the White House is. Ainsley, you did this last year, and I remember watching your coverage, and I thought how cool it was to be there on the South Lawn. So it's so fun for me to be here. Just a quick history, Brian, because you're our historian on the show. 1878, the first year of the Easter egg roll in the White House. Who was president?
Oh,
1870?
1878.
78?
Was it
Garfield?
Garfield?
Last year.
It was Rutherford B. Hayes.
Yes.
He started.
And it was a group of kids that went up to him and said, "We want to roll our Easter eggs. Can we use your backyard?" And he said, "Well, sure." And that ended up being the South Lawn of the White House. So that's where it all began. We're going to be here all morning long. Mercedes Schlapp is joining us, I think, at the bottom of this half hour. So we'll see you guys back here soon.
Do you know why they asked if they could do it at the White House?
Because they originally did it at the Capitol. Ainsley, you know this as well, and they made a complete mess on the lawn of the egg dye.
There were too many divots in the ground.
That's right.
So they
called
put
the
a
cops.
bill out.
They called the cops on the kids who showed up.
Reminds me of a movie. Remember in Pretty Woman when they go out on the horse field? You know how they do at the polo races, and then they cover the divots. That's what happened on Capitol Hill.
Right.
Years ago.
It's a beautiful tradition.
And by the way,
here
Pretty
all
Woman
morning.
ended great because she got off the old path, got into a better path, ended up meeting somebody that really affected her life. There you
And
go.
the man that she loved. You're right, Brian.
Right.
All right,
He
Abby.
rescued her right back.
He did.
She rescued him right
Yeah.
back.
All right, Abby, thank you. Well, the president didn't wind up with his border wall in the budget deal that passed the House and the Senate last week.
And I think he's a little angry about that. It might be me, but I'm able to read between the lines.
I think he's angry at Republicans and Democrats, in particular because he didn't wind up with his deal, which means they didn't wind up with that DACA deal. And as the president was driving to church in Palm Beach yesterday, he actually sent this tweet out telling everybody where he stands on this.
It said Border Patrol agents are not allowed to properly do their job at the border because of ridiculous liberal Democrat laws like catch and release. Getting more dangerous. Caravans coming. Republicans must go to nuclear option to pass tough laws now. No more DACA deal.
And there is a caravan of about 1,000 people heading our direction. A lot of them women and children. They feel as though if they're in a big group, they're going to be safer, and that it's going to be so overwhelming to the border, they'll have to be let in and maybe allowed to get in and just infiltrate into society, much like what happened in 2014. Many of those women and children probably find people, but jumped the entire system and were thrown into different communities. However, some were bad. And some were MS-13, and they put themselves within those refugees, and they should never have been here to begin
So
with.
what you're
The
looking
president
at,
wants to stop that.
You're looking at those pictures of the caravan. They are primarily from Honduras, 80% of them. There's a group called People Without Borders, and they put out this press release release saying if you don't like your community, if it's too violent here, which we all know it is, then you come with us and let's walk our way to the United States. And we're going to meet in South Mexico, where they shouldn't even be allowed into Mexico because they don't have passports or legal documents to enter. And that's where the caravan started.
Well,
they're working their way up here.
Right. 2/3 of them are either going to try to seek asylum. They may stop in Mexico City, or they're going to simply try to melt across our southern border. The president, in the last, 2 minutes, has tweeted this out. Mexico has the absolute power not to let these large caravans of people enter the country. They must stop them at their northern border, which they can do because their border laws work, not allow them to pass through into our country, which has no effective border laws. ... More to come shortly.
By the way, here's what the foreign minister of Mexico said yesterday. Every day, Mexico and the U.S. work together on migration throughout the region. Facts clearly reflect this. An inaccurate news report should not serve to question this strong cooperation. What's inaccurate about it? Are those not real people? Are they all heading this direction? Was it reported by 2 separate outlets, and then we look at the video and we're seeing where they're heading? We asked them where they were going. They are free to say where they're heading. They know their objective. They're coming this direction. So Mexico can stop it. With a lot of times we see, other than Mexicans, for the most part, OTMs are the ones coming across the border in the South. It's not Mexico. They say, if you're going to go straight through, you can come in. But a lot of them are going straight through, but they're not going to get in here.
So if you go down to the border, you'll see the crossing. You'll see where you can enter from Mexico into the United States. And they have this big room where our border agents work. And they take these families in one at a time. And they told me when I was down there, some of them come in with scratches all over their legs because they've made these long journeys into the United States to try to plead for asylum because they're escaping violence. So they take these families one at a time. So that's what this caravan is doing. They're going to stop there at our border. They're going to try to get 1 foot on American soil. And once that happens, then catch and release is administered, which means once they're on U.S. soil, once even 1 foot is on our soil, we take them into custody, we process them, and they can prove credible fear of going home.
Sure.
And therefore, we release them into the U.S. until they're court here.
So they have done this for a number of years, and this is they do this on Holy Week to appeal for special amnesty. Now here's the thing, though. If those images are to happen where they come toward the United States, and, there are reporters traveling with them, those are going to be, they've already got security protocols where the men are going to form a wall around the women and the children. And those images would be really hard to watch, watching children and their families being separated. However, can you imagine, though, if that were to happen where 1,000 people just walked into the United States, they would be making the case for Donald Trump's border wall. He would be able to say, look, this is the reason we need the border wall, to stop folks from simply walking across an invisible line.
All right, so go ahead.
Really quickly, it is heartbreaking to see these kids. And by the grace of God, we were born in this great country where we don't have to worry about all the violence. But we don't have to worry about it because we do keep our country safe. And you have to do it the right way.
All right, let's change gears. And on Thursday, Attorney General Sessions disappointed some on the right when he came out and said there's not going to be a second special counsel.
Yet.
We're just not going to do it. He says, right now, I think John Huber would be the perfect person to do this. He's already working with Horowitz in tandem with the Department of Justice, Michael Horowitz. The conclusion of the review, Sessions said Huber will pick it up from there and look at how the Hillary Clinton investigation went, the Uranium One sale went, and everything like that. And he says they'll have full special counsel power. Senator Lindsey Graham was not happy with that on Sunday.
My belief is it should be a special counsel. And here's the question. I want a special counsel with the same determination and resources to look at the abuses of the FISA process. Was the Clinton email investigation a sham? Were there conflicts of interest in the Justice Department? I want a special counsel to be appointed with the same resources and the same determination to look at those issues as Mueller is looking at the Trump campaign. And I don't see that yet.
They say that Jonathan Turley told us they got the same power. And he says this will be quicker, to the point, and if you need a second special counsel, we'll do it after that. He joined us earlier.
I think that the Attorney General did exactly what people should want him to do. What he essentially did was he combined this large investigatory staff of the Inspector General and attached to it a line prosecutor who has all the powers of a prosecutor. That's going to move this along in a much more expedited basis. And for people who really want to look at whether there's criminal conduct here, this is a very good way to approach it. And what Sessions is saying is, I could still appoint a special counsel, but I want to bring in a prosecutor, combine him with this Inspector General, and get at this stuff. I mean, that's why I think this is a pretty brilliant approach.
You know, it really could streamline things because Michael Horowitz has already flagged the bad stuff. So he can just say, hey, Mr. Huber, look at this, and he can go, okay, we need to act on that and that and that. You know, Washington is worried about two things. They're worried about the whole Russia thing. Was there collusion? This would answer it. But also, there's a cloud over the Department of Justice and the FBI that needs to be lifted. And if this guy can work quickly, get it done in 3 or 4 months, that would be great. But if it just stretched out, that would be just...
I understand what Jonathan is saying, but that would just drag it on. If you bring in this guy Huber first,
but
and then you need
already,
a special,
and then you working with Horowitz.
And then you need a special counsel, that just drags it on even longer.
Well,
America is just tired of this. They want to find out if there was FISA abuse, and then they want to move on and do something about it.
This guy could actually short-circuit the system, though.
Then maybe
and
it would be a good thing.
Criminal, boom.
You got some saying yes, some saying no.
Bottom line is the special counsels, I don't care where you stand, are ripping this country apart. The Robert Mueller investigation is tearing this country apart. It's putting people into their corners, and then this would add to that. Even though their objectives are pure and simple and they have merit, the overall special counsel thing is really damaging.
So a special counsel, which would be several people looking into it, that would even actually delay it even, right.
Yeah, exactly.
So it would just, okay. Then maybe just having one person is the right.
I think it makes a lot of sense. 11 minutes now after the hour. Jillian Mealy always makes a lot of sense.
Always, yes, absolutely. Good morning to you guys. Good morning to you.
Brian, not so much.
We do have a Fox News alert, so let's get you caught up on this. ISIS could be plotting to attack soccer's World Cup using armed drones. Propaganda reportedly shared online shows preparations for the attacks on fans and players in Russia this summer. Extremists started circulating pictures like this one last year, showing Madrid soccer star Cristiano Ronaldo kneeling in front of a terrorist. Yikes. Right now, rescuers frantically searching for a boy who fell into a ditch near the iconic Hollywood sign. Friends say 13-year-old Jesse Hernandez plunged down into a drainage pipe playing inside an abandoned building in Griffith Park. That pipe feeds to the Los Angeles River. More than 100 firefighters and other rescuers searching for the child using special cameras in the pipes. 2 elementary school students take a knee while performing the national anthem. The political statement happening at the Seattle Mariners game at Safeco Field. It's unclear exactly how old the kids are. That's a look at your headlines. I'll send it back to you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Wow.
Unbelievable. 13 minutes after the hour.
Still ahead, investigators revealing a Florida teenager accused of killing a classmate in a stabbing spree wanted to join ISIS. Our next guest says the First Amendment actually protects Americans who pledge ISIS allegiance.
And hold your wallets. Tuition going up for college students in one state.
Great.
But illegal immigrants, they're exempt. Don't worry, kids.
And we roll on live from the White House for the Easter egg roll.
Hello, Bunny.
Hey.
We are now learning that 17-year-old Florida teenager, Corey Johnson, who's now charged with first-degree murder, expressed great interest in joining ISIS and even watched violent jihadist videos online the night before he tried to stab a teenager and their entire family. So how did investigators miss these critical warning signs of ISIS in Florida? Here to discuss is former FBI special agent, former U.S. Army Ranger, and founder of the Jenkins Group, Chad Jenkins. Chad, good morning to you.
Hey, good morning, Steve.
So this kid was on the FBI's radar because they figured out that this guy was responsible for threatening a Catholic school in England. And the FBI was going to do something about him. But before they could, he woke up one morning and decided to try to kill a whole family whose house he was staying at.
Yeah, absolutely. We see once again terrorism strike here in the United States. Now, the threat that he made to the UK school, what was deemed at that time is he did not have the means to conduct that attack, therefore it was not an actionable threat that he made. They were working on this, as well as Jupiter Police Department and the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office. So the warning signs were known by law enforcement, but unfortunately no overt crime was committed in order to charge this individual before he could then attack this this poor family.
I know. And one of the young men in that family was killed, murdered. But the night before he woke up and said, I got to kill this family, he and another kid watched these jihad videos on social media.
Yeah, we're seeing this all too often. It's the continual ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Al-Shabaab, you name it, whatever foreign designated terrorist organization, using the propaganda online with these videos to radicalize and inspire young kids here in America to do these horrible, reprehensible crimes, these terrorist attacks. Why we are not treating child pornography is beyond.
We're having a little bit of problems with Chad's audio, but nonetheless, he would like to see social media companies crack down on ISIS videos and jihadi videos, and a lot of people feel exactly the same way. All right, Chad, we thank you very much. Apologize about that audio. Meanwhile, straight ahead on this Easter Monday morning, can you really teach anybody to believe in God? Dennis Prager says yes. He joins us live to explain. Good morning, Dennis.
Hey, time now for your news by the numbers. I'll begin. First, 5 million. That's how many customers had their credit card information stolen at Saks Fifth Avenue. That's why I won't shop there. And Lord & Taylor, both of them, parent companies. Hudson Bay says they've been taking steps to contain the breach. Well, take your time. Next, $1,000. That's about how much the University of California is raising tuition for out-of-state students. But according to the College Fix, illegal immigrants can still pay the in-state rate. Isn't that nice? And finally, $45 million. That's how much President Trump's former White House is listed for. President Trump and his ex-wife, Ivana, bought the Connecticut mansion in the 1980s for $4 million. Took him a week to make that. Ainsley?
All right, thanks, Brian. In his latest book, best-selling author and radio talk show host and friend of ours, Dennis Prager, argues that belief in God is based as much on reason as it is faith.
So how does this message resonate in an increasingly secular society? Here to discuss is the author of the Rational Bible, Exodus, Dennis Prager. Good morning to you.
Well, it's a delight to be with you. And this, I have to say, on a personal level, is a highlight. It's my 8th book, but this is my passion.
Why?
That's the question. Why? The radical secularization of the West is a catastrophe. This is the first generation in human history raised godless. It has never happened. Pagans had gods. Everybody had gods. We are in the midst of one of the great intellectual and moral gambles of history, that society can continue without any transcendent belief. So I have been teaching the Bible as a believing Jew. I am a Jew. Most people think if you write on the Bible you're a Christian, completely understandably. As many Christians have taken my courses as Jews have, but I just want people to know, and I believe that this is the greatest book ever written. So did Abraham Lincoln, so did people who never went to the Bible. And I am here to explain why it transforms your life for the better, using reason only.
Why do you say that this generation is being raised godlessly? I don't know that that's as accurate around people I know, as God is not that important to them as he used to be.
Well, it's first of all, the number of people who say none to religion. Now, it is possible, it's true, to be in no religion and still believe in God. But then I always ask these people, what God do you believe in? And it's generally a reflection of themselves. For example, do you believe that God gave the 10 Commandments? No, I don't believe that. Okay, so then what did God give? Here's a good question. If there's no revelation of God's will, what's the difference if you believe in God or not if you don't know what he wants from you? I mean, so the difference between atheism and a God whose will I cannot know is minimal. And that's why I start with the Ten Commandments. And in the introduction to my book, The Rational Bible, I note how important it was to me. I had a difficult time with my parents, which is hardly new in humanity, right? By the way, every family in Genesis is dysfunctional. It should make people with dysfunctional families feel a little better. This is one of the points that I make in the Genesis book. This is Exodus. Anyway, I honored my parents. I respected my parents every day that I had problems with them for the years that I did. I called them every single week. And the reason, there was one. I believed God said, honor your father and your mother. Believe me, it is a big difference in your life if you think God has a command or not.
Real quickly, you said you can teach anyone that God exists based on reason, not just
The
faith.
entire book I am not a mystic. I have never had, God has never directly spoken to me. I am pure reason. On reason alone, this is the most profound book ever written, and I intend to make it the curriculum of your life, as one guy wrote it. He said, this is not a book, it's a curriculum for life. And that's a great description.
And go ahead.
It's interesting that you believe that about the Bible, but yet you believe in the Old Testament, not New Testament, right?
Right, that's correct. But Christians love my work because the Old Testament is part of Christianity. Jesus was rooted in the Torah, the first 5 books, as much as any religious Jew who has ever lived. So there is nothing that doesn't support a Christian's belief in this. And that's why I have a very, as you probably know, a very big Christian following, and I'm very honored by that fact. But that I am coming from the perspective of a religious Jew, but it is not to convert anybody. It's to make, I want you to take this book seriously. Abraham Lincoln almost never went to church. He read the book every night. You know what we lack today? Wisdom. Harvard has no wisdom. UCLA has no wisdom. They have knowledge, but they don't have wisdom, and it's because they don't have this book.
Wow. 25% of Americans describe religion as not very important. We'll see if they're converted from this book. Congratulations, Dennis Prager.
Thank you for having me.
Great to see you in person.
Great to see you. The book is just fabulous. Beautiful, too. The beautiful cover. Thank you. 28
minutes now after the hour. Still ahead, the president, and by the way, Ainsley usually doesn't like our guest, so you're the first one. Still ahead, the president just made another bold declaration about DACA, the brand new tweet just coming in.
Plus, Abby is live at the White House at the Easter egg roll this morning. Abby, what do you have coming up?
Good morning. So the Easter Bunny has arrived. The sun is up, and look who I found. Hello. It's our friend Mercedes Schlapp. She's going to talk to us right after this commercial break. Stick with us.
Back with a Fox News alert, the president just tweeting this morning a series of tweets. First one says, Mexico has the absolute power not to let these large caravans of people enter their country. They must stop them at their northern border, which they can do because their border laws work, not allow them to pass through into our country, which has no effective border laws.
Then, DACA is dead because the Democrats didn't care or act. Now everyone wants to get onto the DACA bandwagon. No longer works. Must build a wall and secure our borders with the proper border legislation. Democrats want no borders, hence drugs and crime. What the numbers show, the average American, separate from Democrat and Republican, want an enforced border and want a crackdown on illegal immigration.
Sure.
That's what the president understands, but even Republicans don't fully get.
Blame Congress. I mean, the president, back in September, made it very clear. Congress, you've got 6 months to do something. Because it is now stuck in the courts, there's no emergency on Capitol Hill. So it's like, yeah, we'll wait until they figure it out in the courts. That is such a big mistake because all these DACA dreamer kids would like to know what's their status, what's going to happen. But Congress has let them down.
Axios had this unbelievable graph of what's in the omnibus bill. They put more money in every program than the President Trump even asked for, except when it came to the wall.
Yep.
It's like an in-your-face, I can fund it in a blink of an eye, but I won't because you want it.
Well, the president said, I'll put it on the table, I'll allow these DACA kids to stay. I'll, in fact, increase it to 1.8. And now he's saying that's off the table because you didn't take it when I offered it.
Right. And by the way, this is to emphasize her point.
There you go. All right. Jillian's here.
I'm getting nervous about. I'm glad I'm standing over here.
It's a wand.
Good morning, guys. Let's get you caught up on some of the other stories that we're following, starting with the desperate search that's intensifying for a teen swept underwater by a rip current on spring break. 17-year-old Javon Limke trying to save his father and stepmother from drowning when he disappeared off the coast of Fort Morgan, Alabama. The Wisconsin teen hasn't been seen since last Sunday. Volunteers joining rescuers with boats, dogs, and divers to try and recover his body. Families of the Pulse nightclub shooting victims will not get to sue social media. A judge dismissing the lawsuit from families and survivors accusing Facebook, Google, and Twitter of helping ISIS. They say the sites knew about terrorist posts that radicalized shooter Omar Mateen. A judge ruled the companies didn't support Mateen and ISIS didn't directly carry out the 2016 attack. Take a look at this. American hero is busting a move at 93 years young, I will say. In fact, Leslie Edwards is so good at dancing, his instructor created a dance just for him, the Tuskegee Airman Hustle. Watch.
I'm a Tuskegee Airman, and I'm on my last flight. I said, I'd like to make a good landing. I said, can you help make a good landing for me with some kind of dance?
Edwards recently took up line dancing in Ohio to keep his mind and body fit. And I will tell you, he's got better moves than me, so you go. Isn't he awesome?
Yes. All right, thank you, Jillian.
Yeah.
All right, Adam Klott's a good dancer.
Oh,
Really?
is he?
Right.
You go
Better
dancing?
forecaster.
I'm a great dancer. I might be a better dancer than I am a forecaster.
Really?
Well, don't slip out there if you dance.
Well, I'm not going to dance because I need a beat. So unless you're going to beatbox for me, Brian, I'm probably okay for right now. But it is coming down out here. You're looking at snow all over the place. It's been snowing really heavy here in New York City for the last couple of hours. It is going to continue for several more hours, even though we're talking about the first day of spring. Here's where this snowstorm is. We can take a look at the maps, moving across into the mid-Atlantic, stretching up into places like Connecticut, stretching up towards Boston. Just now beginning to see some light snow there. Despite this very wintry-like weather, it is eventually going to be wrapping up because as we get on the backside of this, temperatures are going to be climbing up closer to 50 degrees as we get going into this afternoon, eventually at least the mid-40s. So I do think this snow that's on the ground will be melting here in the next little bit, guys. Despite all of this, it is warm in several parts of the country. Houston, temperatures have been up closer to 70 degrees and will be again today. Spots like that, we're looking at pollen counts getting up to the high range. The same is true in the Carolinas. So, yeah, I know I'm dealing with the snow, but there are spots out there where there's signs of spring. Hopefully it'll be coming here before too much longer.
Yeah,
guys.
I'd love to count pollen. I haven't seen it.
I know,
The
it's very
azaleas are
important.
blooming down south. Some
Boy,
of my
are
friends
they.
are posting pictures.
I know.
They're
Yeah,
not
you don't.
here.
I think that's where this thing started.
yeah.
I need some clarity.
The
All right.
tulips are bumping their head on the Earth's crust right now, thinking, I'm going to stay in.
What
Today's
about
a
the
good day.
gladiolas?
I'm not sure.
Let's go down from the whiteout conditions here to the White House, and that's where Abby is with the special guest.
Good morning, you guys. It is pretty chilly here in D.C. as well, but the party has started. The kids are here. The Easter Bunny's here. You can hear the military band playing behind me. I'm here with Mercedes Schlapp, White House Senior Advisor for Strategic Communications. Always good to have you on the show.
Good morning.
Mercedes.
Happy Easter.
It's going to be a fun, busy day.
It is,
here
and
at the White
cold,
House.
apparently.
And cold. And you've got 5 daughters that are going to come out here in about an hour or so.
They're heading their way over here now.
So I want to get to the egg roll, but first, your thoughts on something that's getting a lot of talk this morning. David Shulkin, now out at the VA. He's saying that he did not resign, but he was fired. Here he was yesterday on Meet the Press.
There would be no reason for me to resign. I made a commitment, I took an oath, and I was here to fight for our veterans.
So why would the White House say technically you resigned? Did you submit a letter of resignation?
No,
Were
I
you
did
asked
not.
to submit a letter of resignation?
No, I was not.
So he's saying he did not submit a letter of resignation, also saying that on another network this morning. Clear that up. What happened?
General Kelly called Secretary Shulkin and gave him the opportunity to resign. Obviously, the key here is that the president has made a decision. He wanted a change in the Department of Veterans Affairs. He felt it was time. He wanted more results coming out of that particular department, which, as we know, is incredibly bureaucratic. And so that is why he moved to make this change. It is why he's brought in Admiral Ronnie Jackson, someone who is well respected here at the White House, who has served multiple presidents, who has bipartisan support. We're going to need someone in there who's going to be able to take on the challenge of Congress and being able to push forward significant veterans legislation, and as well as stay focused on the compassionate care of our veterans, which is a priority for this president.
So he didn't resign, so we can clear that up. It was more of a decision made by the president. He knew a change needed to be made, and he made that change.
It was, as I said, General Kelly offered him the opportunity to resign. At this point, the president said it was time to move on in terms of Veterans Affairs. He thanked Secretary Shulkins for his service, and now it's on to what we need to do, which is moving forward and making sure that veterans have more affordable choices, that they're able to ensure that we reduce the backlog, and make sure that veterans don't have to wait extensive period of times to get the service and the quality of service that they need.
As the military bands are playing behind us, it's very, very fitting. So tell us about the egg roll, because you came under the Bush years when you were working, but since then you've had 5 daughters.
Yes.
And how fun is this for kids in particular?
I think it's fun for the whole family. Yeah. It's an opportunity. It's such a tradition here at the White House. It was President Rutherford Hayes who brought it over here. At first it was over at the Capitol, and then Congress decided they wanted
the lawn.
Exactly.
They said this isn't happening anymore.
The White House is a much more fun place to be. So they brought the Easter egg roll here. The First Lady, Melania Trump, has done a beautiful job of organizing the activities.
They start planning in the fall for this day, and usually the First Lady puts their own touch on it in a way. Nancy Reagan has those wooden eggs that they still give out at the Easter egg roll, and there's a bowling alley this year thanks to Melania Trump.
That's exactly. So the kids are going to be able to do the bowling, but then the most significant part is the actual egg roll. My kids ask me, is it an egg hunt, Mom? Am I going to pick up the eggs? No, you actually
I don't know if they can show the camera, but the kids are actually rolling the eggs as we do this right to our left.
The eggs, and it becomes quite a competitive situation for the 5 daughters who wants to see who's going to win.
How much coffee do parents need before they come to this?
I would say a lot.
A lot of coffee.
Just get ready.
Thanks, Mercedes. Great to have you on this morning.
Thank you for being
Ainsley, Stephen, Brian, back to you.
Okay, great interview.
Thank you
very
so much to both of you ladies. Well, an army of immigrants, they're heading up here to America from South America and Mexico. So what happens when migrants come into our country? They stay. Our next guest reveals the true story about America's backlogged immigration system.
Plus, an author claims he knows who the White House leaker is.
So if you wonder, why there are so many leaks out of the White House, one reason is Kellyanne is the #1 leaker.
Really? Ron Kessler said that? Kellyanne Conway here to respond next hour. This story all morning, getting a lot of reaction from you. A caravan of migrants, at least 1,200 strong, marching across Mexico toward the United States.
Well, the group says that they want to make a statement, some seeking asylum here in the U.S., others planning to sneak over the border. But what really happens if they do make it into our country?
Here to answer that, the president of the National Border Patrol Council, Brandon Judd. Brandon, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Okay, so 2/3 of them would like to either wind up with asylum with the United States or simply melt across our, at times, invisible border. What happens?
Well, when they come here and they ask for asylum, we'll take them into custody. We'll do hours worth of processing, and then we'll turn them over to ICE, and then ICE will release them based upon what they call a credible fear, and then they'll melt into the shadows, which is what President Obama called it. But in essence, we're just not enforcing our immigration laws. And again, we're not talking about legal immigration. We're talking about illegal immigration. Right. The public isn't down on legal immigration. They're down on illegal immigration.
So, Brandon, all they have to do is come in, meet with you guys on the border, and they have to prove political corruption, violence against their people, corruption, gangs, police, ending murder, ending domestic violence in their countries. If they say to you, if we go back, that's what we're going home to, if you send us back, do you automatically have to, through the catch and release program, allow them to come into America and then let them go until they have their court hearing?
Yeah, and they don't have to prove anything initially. All they have to do is come here and make a claim, and that's the problem. They're being coached by the smugglers that are bringing them up. You got to remember, this is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and the smugglers are coaching them and telling them exactly what they need to say. So all they have to do is come here and claim that they fear to go back to their country, and they don't have to provide any evidence whatsoever.
Well, it seems like the problem is once they are arrested, detained, and then they are released, why didn't they just expedite it where, okay, they're detained, Let's have the hearing right now.
The problem is you have too many officials in the federal government that don't believe that President Trump is going to be reelected in 2020. They're trying to wait him out. I've spoken with many political appointees that say that the career professionals, all they're doing is waiting them out and hoping that the person that they want gets in. You got to remember, federal employees did not vote for President Trump, and so all they're trying to throw a monkey wrench into everything that he's trying to accomplish.
But Brandon, yeah, it breaks everyone's heart when you see parents and their kids, but we have to make sure we're vetting people to make sure we're keeping our own country safe. But when I was down there on the border, they were telling me that people come from all over the world. They walk in through Mexico, and then, like you said, through catch and release, we have to accept them into our country. Why is that fair when you have a long list of people who aren't able to do that are waiting to get in this country the right way?
Well, and that's interesting. I have several family members that are from countries other than the United States that immigrated to the United States legally, and they did it the right way. And so you've got this backlog of people that are waiting to come to the country legally, and they get very frustrated seeing these people, in essence, jump ahead of the line. Right. It would be like somebody breaking into your home, sitting on your couch and saying, hey, I'm here, so you have to let me stay here. It's just, it's an insane way to think of things, and we have to be able to enforce our immigration laws. We have to have the political will to do it, and if we don't have the political will, we're going to be talking about this every single year.
Or maybe the laws need to change, because they're not really breaking the law, though, are they? With catch and release, they're not breaking the law. The laws just need to change if people aren't happy.
Congress. It's time for Congress to do something.
It is. What they're breaking the law initially when they make the entry illegally, but then through the court systems we end up releasing them. But we can in fact hold them in many cases. We just choose not to.
Well, there you go. Let's see what happens. Brandon Judd, President, National Border Patrol Council, joining us from the beautiful city of San Antonio. Sir, thank you.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.
Still ahead, the Taliban ramping up attacks. What does it mean for the war on terror? We're going to talk to the former commander of U.S. forces in Afghanistan next.
Plus, live from the White House, Press Secretary Sarah Sanders is going to join us as we roll on live from New York City, where it is snowing, and the White House Easter egg roll, where it is not. John Campbell is with us right now, but for the first time retired. You've been on the veranda with the troops. I've caught you at the Washington Correspondents' Dinner at different events, had you on the radio, but General, you're in retirement now, still giving back, and I want to talk about that, but your last command was Afghanistan. Besides the rules of engagement that President Trump put in place, do you think anything changes in that country as the fighting season begins?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the U.S. and the Afghan forces continue to put a lot of pressure on the Taliban. President Ghani has reached out with reconciliation offers of peace. I think the Taliban are striking back. You've seen a lot of different attacks here lately. But I really do have a lot of confidence in the Afghan security forces. Their Air Force continues to build up. They have new helicopters. They have new fighters. They've had new leadership in many key positions, so very optimistic about the future.
The president cut off funds to Pakistan. He knows it's a sanctuary for the Taliban. So do you think that'll be effective? Because they could answer back and stop that corridor to allow us to resupply troops.
Yeah, we've been going back and forth with Pakistan for years and years. I do think the engagement with Pakistan and continued pressure on Pakistan is a key. Sanctuary across the border has inhibited us from doing some things we need to do, but I think we need to keep the pressure on.
Big story in the New York Times how they've got a hold of our night vision glasses. They're able to fight at night. They've doubled the amount of night fights that we have from 2014 to 2017, and they're worried about what's going to happen in 2018. How do they get them?
Yeah, I'm sure they've picked up some on the battlefield. You can buy some through different sports stores, so they're getting them from other countries around the area. They've had those for years in smaller numbers. Again, I have confidence in the Afghan forces, the leadership, and the U.S. forces.
And I have confidence in you because anything you get a hold of is going to be successful. Now your new program is you're joining vets in a nonprofit. It's called an N52. It's serving to help veterans find employment, an occupation, a career.
NS2.
My fault. NS2, helping the veterans get careers, too.
Yeah, absolutely. NS2 serves as a brainchild of Mark Testoni. He's the president of SAP NS2. About 4 years ago, he developed this program. We take vets, We bring them into 12 weeks of IT training, and we guarantee them jobs at the end. It's life-changing for them. We do 4 classes a year. We're holding one right now in Leesburg, Virginia.
How many soldiers can you?
There's 20 in the class, and again, Deloitte is going to hire all of these soldiers when they get out, soldiers, airmen, sailors, and Marines in the class. But it's a life-changing thing. There's a lot of different organizations out there doing great things for vets, but this one drew my attention because of the opportunities it provides for life-changing training for them.
And for this in particular, what's your message now? Hey, vets, look at me, go sign up, or
9/11 vets, Gold Star spouses, go to www.ns2serves.org. They'll get all the information. There's testimonials from graduates on there. They could explain the program a lot better than me, but it really is a life-changing skill set that we provide to them. So I'm very excited about it.
And we have it right on the screen, ns2serves.org. General, thanks so much. We got to talk to you again.
Absolutely.
Great to see you in civilian clothes. But first, he's going to Geraldo's book party tonight.
Absolutely.
Where he hangs out, because Geraldo's his man.
All right. Thanks.
Meanwhile, straight ahead, the president says there will be no DACA deal as a caravan of immigrants marches to the U.S. So did they drop the ball not acting sooner? We're going to debate it. Plus, Sarah Sanders is going to be here live. Kellyanne Conway, Eric and Lara Trump from the White House. Don't move. Big show, big hour coming your way.
The DACA deal is done.
This is what always bothers me about the liberal approach to immigration. They talk about it as if there's not a consequence for other people.
They had a great chance. The Democrats